Hey, I have a second channel. Cube Comp MTDX. Hey everybody. So I'm sure many of y'all in the tech enthusiast community know just how much Windows 10 has changed over the years from 2015 through present. The OS has made a whole lot of changes. Some of them visual, some of them features, but there's one thing that has definitely changed about Windows 10 over the years, and that is the bloat. The amount of bloat it has, and how much of resources it takes to run the operating system. So here we have the Trash AM2 system that I used to demonstrate Windows 11 running on pretty much trash hardware, if you want to call it that. I called it the Trash AM2 system because it was just a crappy Sempron 3600 plus CPU with 2 gigs of RAM, a really slow hard drive, onboard NVIDIA graphics from 2005-2006, that time period. Motherboard, I believe, is actually from around 2007. And since Windows 11 would not run on the core socket 939 or 754, I decided to make a socket AM2 system that was just super low end. Matter of fact, more low end than the 939 and 754 systems. But anyways, I have done some upgrades to the Trash AM2 system. So let's go ahead and turn it on and go into the BIOS, and I can show you what has been done to this thing to make it a little less terrible. So here we are in the BIOS, and so we still have 2 gigs of RAM. I mentioned in my previous videos regarding this system that I don't have any available 2 GB DDR2 modules, so I had to stick with 2 1 GB modules. So this thing may not tell you much in the BIOS. Some BIOS utilities will actually tell you some more. What I can do is turn off the full screen logo, and that should show us our specs. There's no operating system here just yet. Alright, so I just hit pause there. So now we have a AMD Athlon 64X2 dual-core processor 4000 plus. We still have the 2 gigs of DDR2 memory. So, oh, and also we have a 160 gig Western Digital hard drive. I figured maybe the Western Digital hard drive might be a little faster than that Seagate drive that I pulled out of this thing. The Seagate drive was just horrible. Like I said, I did it that way on purpose to see just how low Windows 11 could go. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start out with the very first Windows 10. The original build 1507 from 2015. That being said, I'm going to pop this in and let it install off the DVD. Just think now with the way Windows is, with new feature updates coming out every year, or was every half year, Microsoft pretty much killed off the concept of using a DVD drive to install Windows. I mean, unless you want to waste a DVD every half a year or every year. Alright, so that being said, it's going to let this run. Okay, so of course the setup looks very familiar. It hasn't really changed much at all. Looks just like Windows 8, and matter of fact, Windows 11 looks nearly the same if you do a clean install. We're going to skip this part since we don't have a product key. We're going to use Pro. So you can see the installer has changed a little bit. Like for example, the product key section, instead of saying I don't have a product key, it just gives you the option to skip. Accept the license terms. Choose custom. I think even the mouse cursor has changed in the installer since the first Windows 10. Create a new partition here. Alright, I'll let this do its thing. Go ahead and disconnect the Ethernet cable before I forget. Because what I want to do is I want to simulate a clean install. I don't want it going online and downloading updates. I just want to do a clean install, just the bare operating system. And once it finishes installing, we run through setup. I'm going to do some simple tests like a startup test. Just to clock how fast it takes to, or how long it takes to start up. And I'll show you around a little bit of the OS because it'd be pretty interesting just how much Windows 10 has changed if you weren't aware. I mean, it really has changed quite a bit. And like once we get to the out-of-box experience or the out-of-box setup, you'll really notice how much it's changed. Okay, everybody, so it's time that we take a trip down memory lane. So this is Windows 10 1507, the first RTM build of Windows 10, and you can see that we are getting prompted to enter our product key. And I think this is probably the only build of Windows 10 that actually does this. And the thing is, even in the original build of Windows 10, Microsoft was already using the digital license activation, but for some reason they failed to include a note in here that you don't need to enter a product key if you're reinstalling. That was included in later builds. So we're going to choose do this later down at the bottom. So we had the customized settings. This reminds me more of a Windows 8 setup where you could just do express or customize. So the out-of-box setup in Windows 10 1507 is very similar to Windows 8 or 8.1, which comes to show that Windows 10 is really just a sort of revised version of Windows 8. So one thing it hasn't done yet is it hasn't prompted me to enter my username. That's interesting. It just restarted on its own. Not really sure what happened there. That was just kind of weird. There we are. That was kind of odd. I was like, it hasn't prompted me for a username. And what's interesting is how the original Windows 10 build, if your internet is not connected, it doesn't even seem to prompt you to connect it. It just goes straight to doing a local account. I mean, at least that's what it's doing here. I mean, it's crazy how long it's been since Windows 10 first come out. bypass this. And of course, turn that off. It's funny to note how when Windows 10 first came out, they said that Microsoft OneDrive was baked into Windows 10. That's a lie. It simply installs on the first launch, or any subsequent launch where you add a user to the computer. Okay, so we are now in Windows 10 1507. Maybe it's just me, but actually I kind of preferred the older background versus the newer background that you have in modern Windows 10. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But of course, one thing I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to install a display driver. And I should have it here on this USB stick. It's just me, as I thought we had more stuff on the taskbar, but let's get rid of search, get that out of the way. So here is the old Windows 10 start menu, which things will look better once things will definitely look better once we get the proper display driver installed. Okay, so the graphics driver is now installed. It's the GeForce 6100 Enforce 405. It's a chipset, and I'm gonna close this out. Now everything ain't so flipping big. Let's have a look at Task Manager, and let's look at our standing memory usage. This system has just 2 gigs of RAM. And we're running, of course, running Windows 10 32-bit. So you can see again, we're using just over a quarter of that just sitting here idle, not doing much anything. So let's have a quick look around. You can see this start menu, which I mean, aside from, of course, these live tiles, of course, the newer version allows you to remove groups of tiles at a time, whereas on this one you gotta unpin every single thing. And you can see, even when you unpin all the stuff, the menu does not collapse. You actually have to manually collapse it down. So there, much better. So the Windows 10 start menu in 1507, you have, it's kind of like Windows 11 in a way. You have up top kind of your, I guess your, well, you have pin apps up top, and you have like recommended down below. Whereas on this, you open up the start menu and you get your most used, along with your File Explorer shortcuts. Well, you just mouse over, and I guess, well, there you are. Then you have your shortcuts for your downloads, your documents, your pictures, your music, and your videos. You have your settings, power, and all apps. It's kind of like Windows 7 in a way. This is a whole lot more intuitive than I think the current Windows 10 menu, start menu. Like I say, I mean, you could, of course, these are your pinned items. This is basically whatever is pinned in your File Explorer, and you have frequent down here. So you can customize this by changing your pin items in File Explorer. could be your under quick access. You'll have these pin items here. So I much prefer this over the current Windows 10 start menu. All right, let's look in settings. So settings has changed a bit, particularly where things are located in the menu. And this old build of Windows 10 doesn't have that annoying bar at the top that suggests you change your default browser back to Microsoft Edge and tells you, oh, you got updates available, blah blah blah. Sign in with a Microsoft account if you ain't signed in with one, you know, all that mess. So if we go to System and of course About, you can see that running Windows 10 Pro. So apparently in the About tab of System on the first Windows 10, apparently it does not tell you the build of Windows 10 you're running. I could be missing something here, but I don't know. So let's look under Update and Security. And of course, you got Windows Update, Defender, Activation, all that good stuff. So yeah, like I say, things are a little different in the original Windows 10 versus how they are now in the current Windows 10. So the particularly with settings, things are kind of just in different locations. So I'm not going to go too much into detail. Of course, we got our old legacy Microsoft Edge. This is not the Chromium based one. Yeah, I love the little broken heart. You're not connected. But so yeah, the original Edge, of course, not based off of Chrome. They later got rid of this and replaced it with a Chromium based Edge. You can, of course, you can tell by the old style E, it looks kind of like the Internet Explorer logo in a way. So here's a quick look at what's included. Now the reason why there's not a whole lot of bloat on here is because we haven't connected to the internet. Once we connect to the internet, it would start downloading junk left and right. Maybe the original Windows 10 wasn't quite as bad for it, but yeah, it definitely would. So I will look at something real quick. So one thing you can notice, how everything in settings is more compacted into certain things. Like the newer settings, I think you have apps in its own thing, and personalization's there. But on this one, you gotta go to Systems, and then, of course, then you gotta go to Apps and Features. And you see default apps is down there too. And again, this here is a whole lot more user intuitive than the default apps in Windows 11, even after the hotfix. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to oh, one more thing. Let's see what time zone it has this thing set to. Yeah, see, this is why Windows 10, when you connect to the internet, if you're in Eastern Time like I am, it shifts your hours back by 3, because it automatically assumes that all Windows installations reside on the west coast of the United States of America in the Pacific time zone, when that's simply not the truth. So yeah. And you can see it really likes to mess around with the date and time. So when you change it back to the correct time zone, unless you're connected to the internet, it automatically shifts your clock by, by 3 hours. So we're just gonna leave it. Just say the heck with it. Let's just leave it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to do a startup test of this. See how fast it starts up in just regular boot, not fast startup. Okay, let's go ahead and restart this machine. Okay, so about 44 seconds, 45 seconds is when I stopped it. We're going to call it 44 seconds from bootloader to desktop, which is not terribly bad at all considering we're running this on a hard disk drive. Old-fashioned hard disk drive, 160 gig, 8 megs of cache. Not a very powerful hard drive by any means. And we got to the desktop in 44 seconds. Not bad. Okay, it's time to upgrade to the latest build of Windows 10, or at least the latest build I have. The latest build currently as of this video is 21H2. That might be what's on this USB stick. If not, it might be a slightly older build. But it is safe to say that ever since roughly, I want to say ever since 1909, that's when Windows 10 started to really get sluggish. So 44 seconds it took for this machine to start. So let's go ahead and proceed to upgrade to the latest build of Windows 10. And the way I'm going to do this upgrade is I'm going to do the choose nothing option. That way we're still working with a clean install. I will have to go back and install that driver again, but anyways, let's go ahead and run setup from within Windows. You may notice how even the UAC prompts, I believe, look different nowadays than what they did in the original Windows 10. You know, to be honest, this really blows how like the older builds of Windows 10, at least on the Home and Pro versions, they don't receive security updates, because let's be honest, the older builds of Windows 10, they were just super sleek and ran pretty well on limited hardware. As you're going to see here in a little bit, once we get this installed, things may be noticeably more sluggish. Alright, we're going to let this do its thing. So just for a little fun, we just finished installing the newer Windows 10. And since it likes to want to nag you to connect to the internet, I've always wondered what would happen if there was no network device available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually disable the LAN. So I think that's where it was in this BIOS. It's funny, this motherboard actually has a RAID built in. That's pretty neat. This, by the way, is an OEME machine's motherboard. Alright, so I think we got it. So let's go ahead and proceed into Windows 10 setup, or at least the out-of-box experience. Okay, so we're going to run through these little things here. And of course, this particular out-of-box experience probably looks more familiar. Alright, let's see what happens here. Nothing appears. there's no network to connect to. That's funny. Love it. I may have to try this out with Windows 11 Home, since it likes to force you to connect the internet to complete setup. We'll have to see what happens. I may try that here soon. So you have to choose I don't have internet. It says there's more to discover when you connect to the internet. Well, it's kind of hard when you don't have a network adapter. That's funny. Love it. Turn all these off. Not now. I'd say there's still probably a similar amount of clicks. I mean, if you want to go back and count them, you're more welcome to do so. It seems pretty similar. Okay. And it seems right away. It seems right away that things are already slower. Significantly slower. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, of course, kill OneDrive setup. Alright. So, yeah, we are still... And look at that memory usage. You remember back in the original Windows 10, 1507, we were sitting, when we was idling, we were sitting around, what, 26%? But we'll have to let things settle down. We'll give it a moment to settle down. And of course, I need to go and install that graphics driver again. Okay, so I've got the display driver installed, and I had to go in and turn off transparency effects because they don't get along with this driver. I noticed the same thing with Windows 11 when I was running on this machine. So right away I can already tell this thing is definitely running slower and more bloated. So let's have a look in Task Manager. And this is just the machine sitting idle. I just restarted it. And you can see, well, we're still waiting on Task Manager load, but you may remember how we were using 26% of our 2 gigabytes of RAM sitting idle in Windows 10 1507. And in this build, which you can see we're currently using 45% of our memory. So let's go ahead and determine what build we actually have. So we go to System, and we go to About. You can see now we have, and of course, okay, so this is the latest build of Windows 10, 21H2, latest build available as of to date, latest RTM build available. So it's a direct comparison between the first build of Windows 10 from 2015 versus the current build, and you can see things are, well, as I can show you, things are kind of more sluggish. I mean, things have kind of settled down now, but you can, again, that basic memory usage is quite a difference for sure. So the current start menu, I do like how they have sort of redone this, so now at least when you want to get the clutter off the start menu, you can just right click on the group and you can unpin the entire group. So that's 2 clicks versus a whole bunch of clicks I had to do last time. And you can see the start menu now auto sizes, but now the start menu, when you click start, you're just presented with a list of all apps in alphabetical order. I think the original 1507 Windows 10 start menu was more user intuitive. I mean, they do give you some shortcuts to documents, music. Well, not music. Just they give you a shortcut to documents and pictures. And they give you a shortcut to settings and power, and your of course your user account where you can sign out or you can change settings and stuff like that. But this current Windows 10 start menu, in my opinion, is inferior to the original start menu that was in 1507. Now we go into settings again when we was just there, but settings, you can see how they spread out more stuff among the settings feature. And what I should have done was I should have actually shown the control panel in 1507 to see, because the thing is, as Windows 10 has evolved, they have moved more and more stuff over from the control panel to settings. So, for example, we'll pull up the control panel, and I mean, it's still pretty well populated here, but for example, in Windows 11, I was not able to find administrative tools right here in the control panel. I was still able to search for services and things like that, but yeah, so in Windows 11, there's definitely some stuff missing from here that's been removed in favor of the settings app. I never much care for settings. I've always preferred the control panel, more user intuitive, but it's like whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, settings definitely has been improved in later builds of Windows 10 versus the older ones. So to wrap this up, because it is getting late, I do want to do a restart and time it. So if you recall, the startup time for Windows 10 1507 was 44 seconds, and I stopped the clock at a little over 45 seconds. So we're going to reset this, and we're going to start over here. We're going to time this out and see how long it takes for it to get from the bootloader to the desktop. Okay, here we go. And of course, I ain't got to worry about trying to install updates when there's no internet access. Wow. So 1 minute and 6 seconds. Yeah. So over 20 seconds longer. That's quite a difference when you think about it. So same exact hardware, but much newer build of Windows 10. The much newer build of Windows 10, of course, has a lot more bloat. So yeah, 44 seconds versus 1 minute and 6 seconds, whatever I just said. But and also 26% idle RAM usage versus 42% idle RAM usage. Quite a difference. So comes to show just how much more bloated Windows 10 has gotten over the years of new releases. And kind of in a way, that's one of the reasons why I've never liked the feature upgrades. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if they continued supporting the older feature builds. Like, for example, I mean, it'd be nice if they would support, like, let's say maybe 1511 or 1607, one of those older ones, because it seemed that Windows 10 was light and snappy running on a lot of different things, even netbooks it ran well on, or Socket 939 AMD, for example. it would run fine on that, but once we started getting up past past like 1903, 1909, especially once we got to 2004, things really started to take a hit. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that in even just the past couple of years, Windows 10 has really gotten bloated. So there you have it, guys. Little trip down memory lane, looking back at the original Windows 10 and showing just how much better it performs on stuff like this. You know, the Trash AM2 system, even with the dual core CPU that it has. It's just night and day difference. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Well, everybody, that wraps it up for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to your channel, and be sure to tick that bell so you'll get notified when new videos are posted. Also, don't forget, I have a whole lot of other interesting videos here on the channel to check out. And also, in addition, I have a second channel, CubeCompMTDX, where I have all sorts of other videos not exactly related to technology. Links to the channels are available at the end of this video. Again, I thank you for your support, and thanks for watching this video.